Are you using Notion to track your routines? Then maybe even you have a nice graph showing how much of your routines you did each day. Yeah, I do that too. But the problem here is that every time you want to check off a routine, you have to open the clunky Notion app on your iPhone, make that tick to see eventually the graph, right? I will show you today a much easier and user-friendly way with the Apple Shortcuts app. Very easy, very smooth. And as a little top on at the end, it also shows you the percentage of routines that you have checked already for today. And how to build this shortcut, I will show you now. So let's just dive in.
Okay, so what you will need first is a database, of course, where you want to track your routines. I have that example database here. So we have 3 days with the respective date. Today is Saturday, September 6th, and just 3 example routines. And here in the end, a progress bar. This is just a formula that transforms each tick to a number and divides that by 3. So if this tick is set, then here this number will be 1. If not, it will be 0. And then it divides everything by 3, so you can see the percentage of your routine progress. What you will need then, of course, is an integration. So you have to have this database open as a page. Then you go here to these 3 dots, you click on connections, and then you add, or you go to manage connections. Then you go to develop or manage integrations. And then here you can set up a new integration. So we just call this routines tutorial. Then you have to associate it to your workspace and then you click save here. Then once you saved it, you will have this pop-up window and then you click on configure integration settings. Then this integration doesn't have any access to pages yet, but we will change that. So here behind these dots is your internal integration secret. You click here on show and copy, and this is what we will need later. Then you go back to Notion, and of course you have to connect this database. So you click here on add connections and you look for your integration and you connect your database to that. Okay, that's it for now here. Then we open our Shortcuts app and we click here on this little plus icon and I call this routines tutorial. And what we have to do now is we set up a text module where we enter our secret token. So let's go back here, copy that again, and go here and paste it. Then we want to hide that behind a variable. That makes it easier. We can just call that key, and our key will now hold this internal integration secret. Then we need another text module, and here we have to paste our database ID. So we go back here to our database, make sure that it is open as a page, click on these 3 dots and click copy link. Then we go back to our shortcut and paste that here, but we don't need all of that. We only need the part behind the notion.so/, so we delete this. And we also delete the part including the quotation mark until the end. And what remains is our database ID. And also this we hide behind a variable and we call that just database underscore ID. So what we want now is that when we open or when we run our Shortcuts app, it only shows us the routines, let's say, from or for today. Yeah. So of course you want to make only the ticks for the routines for that specific day when you run the app, right? When you run the shortcut. So we need to tell the shortcut it should only look for today's date. And how do we do that? We need a module that is called format date. This is what we need, and here we delete this. So you click on database ID and you clear the variable, and here you just type current date. Then this pop-up window opens, and we need to set the date format in a specific format so that it can be read by Notion. So we have to choose here ISO 8601. The time we don't need because this is not important now for our routines. In case at some point you need the time included, just make a tick here, but we don't need that now. Then you click here on show more and you do the same here. So you choose the ISO 8601 time date format. In case you need the time, you make the tick here. And that is it. You can reduce that window. Okay, now here we also want to hide that formatted date behind a variable. So we choose that module again, that variable, and we just call that today formatted to that formatted date. Nothing else you need to do here. Okay, the next step that we have to do is to find today's date or the page that has today's date in our database. So we basically want to find this Saturday so that when we make changes, so when we tick off something, it only affects the page of today. So how do we do that? We use this get contents of URL. Click here and clear this. Because now we have to type here https://api.notion.com/v1/databases/ and now we need to put here our database ID. You could do that with just copying this long database ID and paste it here, but since we have it stored as a variable, we just type here database_ID, our variable. Then we put another slash and we type query. Then here we click on show more and change the method to post. Then we open this header section here and add a total of 2 headers. The first one is called authorization, and that is Bira and key. And the second one is Notion-version, and that is 2022-06-28. And then you can minimize that window. So now, of course, we want to see what pages are we getting here. So we need a module that is called get dictionary value, and we want to get the value for results in get contents of URL. So let's check what is our result here, and therefore we use this module, show results. So on the way of setting up this shortcut, whenever you want to check if it's working until that point where you are, you can use this show results module and then just simply run the shortcut. The first time you run the shortcut, you will get this pop-up window that asks you if you want to allow your shortcut to connect to the Notion API. So here you see there is a typo. So we have to go back. I say allow, but now we see here we get an error message because I have a typo in here. So be very careful because every little single typo will make your shortcut fail. So we can do that again. Click again allow. And this is the result we are getting. So this is the information of all the pages we have here in our database. But we only want actually today's page. So we have to set up a little more here. So what we have to do now is to set up the shortcut in a way that it checks for each entry if the date that is set up here is equal to today's date. So the date we have been setting up here. So the format date module gives us today's date. And we now need to check if the date that we have in our Notion pages equals that formatted date. And this we have to do for each of those entries. So we need a module that is called repeat with each. So you can delete this show module here. And then we have here repeat with each item in that dictionary value. And now we want to get the value for the date property. And therefore we need this get dictionary value module again. We put that in below this repeat with each item. And we want to get the value for properties dot then the name, how you named your property, which has to be exactly how you named it. So this property is just called date. It is case sensitive, so we write here date with capital D dot date dot start. This is how we call for that property. The word that changes here, or the part of that that changes here, is date. So if you call your property day, for example, then you have to write day here, not date, but day. The rest just remains as it is. So then let's check what we get. Okay, so this is the date for one of the pages. We click done. Then we have a date for September 7 and a date for September 9. Yeah, so you can see the results also then here. We have a date September 8, we have September 7, and we have September 6, which are exactly the dates that we have here. So how do we tell the shortcut now that we only want the page with the date of today, which is September 6? Therefore, we first have to format. So we can first remove this show result here. And we have to format our date again because we need it in a specific way. So we want to format that dictionary value. And you click on here, you change the type to date. And we want that in ISO 8601. You can, or you open here, show more, and you change again the date here to ISO 8601. Then you can click here on show less again, and then we want to set a variable again. So we choose this set variable again, and we set the variable name to entry date, so to the formatted date. And now we need to compare the dates. So we need an if condition. So if the entry date equals the today formatted date, then we want to continue with our shortcut. So we need an if condition here. And we say if entry date is today formatted, then you want to continue with the shortcut. And how do we continue with the shortcut? We want to get a value. So we need this get value, get dictionary value again, and we put this here. So if our entry date equals our today formatted date, then we want to get the value for the ID not in our entry date, but in our repeated item. So we remove this, what was written here, entry date. You click on here, you select variable, and then you choose here repeat item. And then we set a variable again. We set the variable name page underscore ID to that dictionary value. In case we do not find an entry date that equals our today's formatted date, we want to do nothing. But we cannot just leave this empty. You have to tell the shortcut that it should do nothing. So we look for the module called nothing here, and we put that after otherwise. And then with that, we end our repeat module. So let's check if that works. So, oops, we put the show result here and we run it. Okay, and this is our page ID for the entry with or where the date equals today's date. Okay, and with that we can continue. We can remove this show result. Okay, so what we need now is a list that allows us to choose the routine that we want to check. So here in our example, we have 3 routines: make bed, journal, and exercise. So we need to tell our shortcut how these routines are called, right? And we need something where we can choose these routines from. So what we need now is a list. So we put a list at the end of our shortcut, and we can remove the example entries here. And we put 3 new entries because we have 3 routines. And now we have to name the routines in our list exactly as they are called in our Notion properties. So the best way to do that is to just copy that to avoid typos or any other mistakes you can make. So because it has to be exactly the same, otherwise it will not work. So journal is the next one. And the last one is exercise. Oh, so I noticed that this is not at the end of the shortcut, so it has to be after the repeat module. So this happens sometimes if you want to put something at the end of the shortcut, so make sure you don't accidentally put it somewhere else, the module that you want to put. Okay, and now we want to choose from that list. So we are looking for a module that is called choose from list. And then we open here on show more. So now you can enter a prompt here. This is not necessary, it's optional as it says here. But you can, for example, ask which routine do you want to check? And then what we can do here is select multiple. So we can allow for the shortcut to be able to check multiple routines at the same time. So you don't have to run the shortcut each time you want to set a new routine. For example, you just made the bed and before you journaled and exercised you actually also already did, but you forgot to run the shortcut after each routine you did. So you can run the shortcut only once and check all of them at the same time. And for that we need the select multiple. Then you can also choose select all initially. That doesn't make much sense, so I will not make a tick here. And then we can click on show list and minimize that window. So what we need to do now is to tell the shortcut what it should actually do with the routines that we chose. Yeah. So the shortcut can only do one modification at a time. And in order to make it run for several routines at the, let's call it the same time, because we only run the shortcut once, it actually does multiple operations, but repeatedly. So we need, again, the repeat with each module. And we wanted to repeat one action with the selected item. So in case we selected now make bed, journal, and exercise all at once, it will start with the first selected item and do the operation. Once it has done this operation, it will check if there are more items that it actually processed, and then continue with the second one and the third one respectively. So what we need to do now here, we set a variable to that selected item. So we set a variable in our repeat loop and we call that variable chosen item to that repeated item. And now we are going to tell the shortcut what it actually has to do. So we need this get contents of URL again. And you remove this chosen item here. You clear this. And then we want to get the content of https://api.notion.com/v1/pages/ and our page ID that belongs to the page where the entry date equals today's date. So the page ID that we got in this step above here. So you can just type page and then it will show up the variable that you set and select this variable. You click here on show more and the method this time is patch because we want to make changes in our page. So you want to modify the page, so this method then is patch. You open these headers here and this time we need 3 keys. The first one is again authorization, which is Bira and our key again. We need Notion dash version, which is again 2022-06-28. And we need content dash type, which is application dash JSON. Okay, and now we need to add the JSON body here. How do we do that? We add an item here and we call that parent. Parent is a dictionary. Then you open that and you click on the plus item again. And now the key that you enter here is within that parent. And this you call database underscore ID, which is text. So you don't need to change that. And here you enter your database ID, which is behind or within that variable that we set up and called database ID. So then you can close this and click on this plus item again. And we call that properties, which is also a dictionary. Then you open that one and click on this plus item again. And here you enter your variable that we called chosen item. So this is dynamically. So whenever you set up something as a variable and you change the content of that variable, of course, the chosen item here will be different. So when the shortcut runs and the first item it takes is make bat, our chosen item will be make bat. If then it runs again because it noticed, okay, there are more chosen items and it runs the journal one, then here it will have the journal one set in the variable chosen item. This is also a dictionary. We open that, we click on this plus item again, and we call this key checkbox because the property type that we have here is a checkbox property. Then you have to change here the text to Boolean and we want to set it to true. And that's it for this module here. We can minimize that and we can see what happens when we run our shortcut. So here now we will be asked which routine we want to check. We first try it with only one. And then we get this as a result that looks good. It doesn't include any error message. So we click done here. And we go to our Notion page. We refresh that. And then we have here our tick in make bat. So let's say we also want to check now journal and exercise and we want to check both at the same time. So we run the shortcut again and we tick journal and exercise, click done, and we get this as a message again. So this message will not pop up when you run the shortcut on your phone. So we click done And we check our Notion pages, and here we have now both routines checked and our progress accordingly updated. This is the basic setup of the shortcut that you can use to check your routines from your iPhone without using the clunky Notion mobile app. But the shortcut that I showed you in the beginning also does something else. It calculates, or well, it returns the calculated progress of your checked routines that we find here in our Notion database, so that you can directly see on your phone how or what is the percentage of your routines that you have already checked today. So we are going to build this now. So we just continue with the shortcut we just built, and we add a module that retrieves some information from our database, specifically from the page that we just modified. So we need again the get contents of URL module and put that at the very end of our shortcut setup. Then again, we remove what is already set up here. We clear this and we enter https://api.notion.com/v1/pages/ and then the page ID. Then we click here on show more. Our method this time is get. We open the headers here and we need two keys. The first one is again authorization, which is again Bira and key. And the next one is the Notion dash version. And this is 2022-06-28. And now we want to see the information that we are getting. So we want to get a dictionary value and put that at the end of our shortcut. And now we want to have the value for properties. And now we need the name of that specific property that we want to get, which is called progress. Again, here it makes sense to just copy that to avoid typos. So now we need to add the type of that specific property, and this type is formula. Yeah, this you see with this little symbol here, this little sum symbol, which indicates that this, if you haven't changed it, that this is a formula type. So we type here dot formula, and our formula returns a number. Yeah, so we see here when we want to edit edit the property, we see here number format, which is %, but this % is not transmitted as such to our shortcut. This only retrieves the number. So we go back to our shortcut and write dot number. And then we can see what happens. So let's add this show result module. We run the shortcut. Well, this will now not change anything because we have already checked our routines. Okay, and the number we get is 1. And this is how it is actually stored. So this percentage is just a mode or just a way of visualizing that. But the pure number, the raw number is 1. So, but now we actually want to have the percentage, right? So what are we going to do now? We first remove this, we stop this here and remove this show module. So the first thing we are going to do is we set again a variable and we call this % value. Or better, makes more sense, we call that actually raw value. Raw value. Okay. So, and now we need to calculate, or well, we don't need to calculate ourselves, but we need the shortcut to calculate something for us. So we look for the module that is called calculate. And now we want our raw value not summed up, but multiplied by 100. We want it multiplied by 100 to get the percent value. So now the problem is that Notion calculates values. Well, it's actually not a problem, it's good, but for us it's not so practical here that Notion calculates with various digits behind the comma, which is not so handy for us. So we want to round our value, and we look for a module that's called round number. And we want to round our calculation result to just one place. You can change that here to your liking. I find one place the most useful and handy here. You can change the mode that it always rounds up or always rounds down. I just kept it to normal. And then we store this result again in a variable, and we call it percent value. So let's see what happens. So I will uncheck this and then run the shortcut. So let's say we only check 2 routines now. And then our result will be 67, which is the same as we find here in our progress. Okay, and then we also want this as a little pop-up window to be shown on our phone when we run the shortcut. And therefore we need this text value. And then you can write, for example, now, then the number, percent value of your routines are checked, for example. To get this shown also on your phone, you will have to add this show results value. Here on the computer, we don't need that, but on the phone, we need this. So let's uncheck this here again, and then we run our shortcut. Let's say we check 2 routines, we click done. And then we get this shown. Now 67 of your routines are checked. So we want to have a 67% actually. So we add the little percentage sign here. Okay, and now it should all work perfectly. Let's run it again. Yes, now 67% of your routines are checked. Okay, and that's it. That's how you can set up a shortcut to check your routines in Notion without opening the Notion app on your phone or even on your computer. And if you don't want to build this shortcut yourself, in the description of this video, I will put you the link where you can download the shortcut. And then I hope this video was helpful for you. And if you like, I would be very happy about a thumbs up on this video or even a subscribe to my channel to not miss any other new tutorials on automations, Notions, and Apple shortcuts. And then see you in the next video. Bye bye.